Tiger's yacht, Privacy, has a sky lounge bar. His vessel may well be called Privacy.
Tiger Woods crash landed into that sport and all of a sudden took it over. And I think a lot of people saw themselves in Tiger and said,
Yacht, Privacy, somewhere out there in the Atlantic, according to this marine tracker.
The world has always seen Tiger Woods as a legend, a champion, and the undisputed king of golf. But what if his private yacht was hiding a secret that could change everything we thought we knew about him? This wasn't just a luxurious vessel. It was a space where something far more advanced was quietly unfolding, away from the public. Inside his yacht, Privacy, investigators found high-level technology, hidden rooms, and mysterious equipment that no one had ever talked about before. Tools so advanced that even scientists were stunned, yet none of it was ever reported, never mentioned in the media. For years, the yacht silently sailed across open waters like it had a mission of its own, no noise, no trace. And Tiger Woods, he never said a word, as if he knew that. Silence was his greatest weapon. The yacht that was never what it seemed.
Yacht, Privacy in Marina ahead of the US Open.
From the outside, Tiger Woods' yacht looked like a floating symbol of wealth and peace. Sleek in design, polished in detail, and named Privacy, it matched his desire for solitude, beyond the public eye. But deep beneath its elegant surface was something entirely unexpected. The vessel wasn't just a personal retreat, it was a structure hiding secrets, built with precision and intent. Everything began with what was supposed to be a standard inspection. But as the team moved further inside, strange details emerged. Hidden doors, walls thicker than normal, silent spaces with no listed function. One discovery led to another, and soon it became clear Privacy had been altered far beyond luxury. There were no signs of ordinary upgrades. Instead, investigators found soundproof rooms, sealed compartments, and power sources quietly running systems that weren't listed anywhere. Some areas didn't appear on any blueprint. Others seemed disconnected from the main ship entirely. It wasn't designed for comfort alone. It was designed to hide something. And for years, the yacht had traveled across oceans unnoticed, its true purpose buried under layers of technology and silence. The world had only seen the surface. The truth was waiting just beneath it, sealed, hidden, and never meant to be discovered. A vessel built to disappear. From the beginning, Privacy was never an ordinary yacht. While the world admired its polished beauty and luxury, very few noticed how secretive its actual movements were. This vessel wasn't made to impress, it was made to vanish. The routes it followed weren't tourist paths, they were quiet stretches of open sea where no one was watching. It stayed off radar for long periods. No port visits, no guest logs, and no public photos. Crew members were rotated quickly, often without records or explanations. Most were given minimal access, limited tasks, and strict silence. Nothing about it followed the usual rules of a celebrity-owned yacht. The construction itself suggested a purpose beyond comfort. Specialized materials, unusual compartments, and hidden cables hinted that Privacy had been engineered for something more than leisure. It wasn't just a retreat, it was a moving fortress designed to disappear quietly, completely, and without leaving a trace. The rooms that weren't on any map. When investigators were granted deeper access to Privacy, what they found didn't match any official plans. Behind flawless panels and silent hallways were hidden room spaces that weren't supposed to exist. These weren't spare cabins or storage areas. They were sealed chambers with advanced materials, some soundproofed, others shielded from electronic signals. One room resembled a sterile lab. Another had curved seating and panels lit by dim screens, like a command center. The floors and walls were made of reinforced materials, not found on typical yachts. Everything inside felt cold, calculated, and highly controlled. Technicians realized that the yacht had been designed with layers, each one hiding the next. The beauty above deck was just a mask. Beneath it was something else entirely, a system built not for comfort, but for secrecy. Privacy had been hiding more than solitude. It had a hidden purpose, structure, and a truth meant to remain unseen. Technology from a different world. The deeper investigators went, the more they realized the technology aboard Privacy wasn't ordinary. Much of the equipment had no brand, no serial number, and no instruction manual. Some devices didn't even connect to known systems, it looked like. The yacht had been fitted with tools from a world far beyond civilian use. In one sealed room, they discovered a compact energy unit with unusual coils and a cooling system far too advanced for personal use. Other devices ran on encrypted software, unresponsive to standard diagnostics. The wiring was hidden in gel-filled channels, something used in aerospace or military environments. Nothing about these systems belonged on a luxury yacht. They weren't designed for comfort or convenience. They were built for isolation, protection, and secrecy. Whoever installed them knew exactly what they were doing. Every wire had meaning, every shielded wall had purpose, and none of it was meant to be found. The silence around the crew. Over the years, many assumed that Tiger Woods' yacht had a rotating staff like any. Luxury vessel chefs, engineers, security, and housekeeping. But as investigators dug deeper, they found something strange. There were no consistent names, no photos, interviews, no records of anyone ever working on board for longer than a few weeks. The crew lists were vague, filled with initials or first names only. Background checks led nowhere. It was as if the people running the ship were ghosts. Those who did speak quietly and anonymously described strict rules. No phones, number of photos. Limited access to certain parts of the yacht. They were given instructions, not explanations. Some were never even told who owned the ship. A few described being flown in at night, working for 2 days, and then being let go without warning. Their pay came through third-party firms. Contracts were verbal. Everything felt temporary, disconnected, and tightly controlled. This wasn't the usual way a luxury yacht was managed. Most celebrity vessels have trusted staff and a clear record of hires. Privacy didn't. It operated under a different system, one designed to leave no trail. No witness could describe what they saw. Worker stayed long enough to learn the full layout, and those who sensed something unusual learned quickly to keep their heads down. The yacht wasn't just built to hide technology. It was built to erase the people who touched it. The disappearing contractors. As word spread about the strange equipment found on Tiger Woods' yacht, investigators tried to trace the origins of the modifications. It didn't take long to find out that most of the work wasn't done by well-known yacht builders or interior designers. Instead, the names linked to the upgrades were unfamiliar. Small companies, foreign contractors, and private engineering consultants that left behind almost no digital footprint. In fact, many of these firms no longer existed. They had shut down within months of completing their work on Privacy. Some of the businesses were registered in remote countries using shell addresses and temporary staff. When calls were made to listed phone numbers, they were disconnected. Websites were offline. It was as if every trace of their involvement had been carefully erased after the job was done. Those who managed to speak with a few ex-contractors described a common theme: secrecy. They were told only what they needed to know, often blindfolded before being taken to the yacht, and warned never to discuss what they had seen. One technician recalled being flown in for a one-day assignment to install a system that didn't resemble anything he had worked on before. He said the power source was unfamiliar, the software unreadable, and the setup instructions handwritten in symbols. When he asked questions, no answers came, only silence. Every part of the job felt temporary, disposable, forgotten, and that's exactly how the designers seemed to want it. A pattern. Hidden in the sea. Long before anything was discovered inside the yacht, something unusual had already caught the attention of quiet observers. Privacy never stayed in one place for long. Its travel pattern wasn't like other luxury vessels. It didn't move from one glamorous port to another. It disappeared into open waters, moving without fanfare, often staying far, beyond international boundaries. These weren't vacations. These were silent trips with no photos, no guests, and no explanations. The yacht's logs showed journeys that avoided busy routes. Sometimes it floated in one remote location for days, sometimes weeks, without docking. No crew reports were filed. No supply records were available. Every movement felt calculated, as if there was a schedule hidden inside the silence. Satellite data showed times when tracking systems were completely disabled. The vessel would vanish from public radar, then reappear, miles away without explanation. Experts familiar with maritime surveillance said this kind of behavior was rare, especially for a celebrity-owned ship. Even military vessels follow basic international tracking laws. But privacy seemed to operate under a different code, one that didn't care about rules or expectations. The yacht became a ghost on the water, moving on its own terms, built to be unseen. And while the world watched Tiger Woods on the golf course, something very different was happening out at sea. The real story wasn't in the spotlight. It was drifting, quietly, just beyond the horizon, layers behind the walls. As investigators returned to the yacht for further inspection, they began focusing on the construction itself, walls, flooring, and ceiling spaces that hadn't been part of the original design. What they found wasn't just surprising, it was calculated. Beneath decorative panels and luxury finishes were hidden cavities, wired grids, and shielding material, normally used in defense-grade environments. Some walls were 2 or 3 layers deep, each section serving a different purpose, some to muffle sound, others to block signals entirely. Specialists found evidence of Faraday shielding, which prevents electronic transmissions from entering or leaving a space. This wasn't the kind of feature installed by accident. It was precise, measured, engineered with intent. Certain compartments were built with lead-lined panels, suggesting they were designed to store devices or information that needed protection from scanning or exposure. It was clear these features weren't part of any luxury upgrade package. What appeared on the outside to be walls covered in fine wood or leather was often just a disguise. Behind them were dense metal plates, sealed circuit boxes, and power units, humming quietly in the background. Every inch of the yacht told the same story. Nothing was placed without purpose. Nothing was ordinary. Privacy wasn't just customized for Tiger Woods' comfort. It was built to shield, store, and silence. The deeper they dug, the more it felt like the yacht was less about escape and more about containment. The cold room. Among the many secret spaces found aboard Privacy, there was one room that stood out from all the rest, tucked behind a reinforced bulkhead with no handle or visible access. Point: this chamber wasn't on any blueprint. It was discovered only after a faint vibration was traced along the lower deck. When the panel was removed, what lay behind it shocked even the most experienced engineers. Inside was a sealed, temperature-controlled room, cold, sterile, and completely silent. The walls were layered with cryogenic insulation, designed to keep the space at a constant low temperature. On one side stood a compact unit shaped like a capsule, connected to narrow tubes and a humming generator below the floor. It wasn't labeled. There were no controls on the outside. Whatever it was built for, it was never meant to be. Accessed easily. The room contained no decorations, no furniture, nothing to suggest it was used for leisure or storage. This wasn't part of any luxury design. It was purpose-built. The air inside felt unnatural, clean, heavy, and still. Sensors in the corners indicated active, monitoring, but there was no data output. No logs, no records. It was as if this room existed outside the rest of the yacht systems. No one could say exactly what it was for, but the effort to hide it, control its climate, and shield it from discovery revealed one thing clearly. It was never meant to be found. The untraceable funding. As investigators pieced together how such complex modifications were even possible, their focus turned to the money. A project of this scale required funding, not just for materials and labor, but for silence. Nothing found on Privacy was cheap. The shielding, the technology, the custom chambers, each detail cost millions. Yet none of it appeared on Tiger Woods' official spending records. There were no contracts, no invoices, no payments tied to his name. On paper, none of it existed. The deeper they searched, the more dead ends they found. Payments were routed through holding companies in offshore zones. Wire transfers came from accounts that were created, emptied, and shut down within weeks. Many of the banks involved no longer operated or had no record of the transactions. It was a clean loop, carefully constructed to leave no trail. Some of the companies linked to the yacht's work had addresses that led to empty offices or demolished buildings. The financial fingerprints had been wiped. Whoever managed the funding knew exactly how to hide it. Layers upon layers of misdirection, built to confuse even the most experienced forensic accountants. This wasn't personal spending. This was something planned with precision. Someone or something had ensured that Privacy would be built, upgraded, and protected without the public ever knowing. It wasn't about cost. It was about keeping everything invisible, and they had succeeded until now. Patterns in the shadows. Once analysts had enough data, a pattern began to form, one that had remained hidden, in plain sight for years. Every time Tiger Woods suffered a public injury or announced a break from competition, the yacht quietly slipped out of port. Sometimes it stayed gone for weeks. Other times it traveled to locations far off normal sailing routes. These weren't vacations. The timing lined up too closely with moments of silence in his career. On multiple occasions, satellite records showed Privacy stationed near uninhabited islands, never docking, never signaling, just hovering quietly beyond reach. From a distance, it looked like a yacht at rest. But under the surface, systems inside remained active, lights on in the hidden rooms, power drawn from backup generators, and transmissions quietly bouncing through encrypted networks. It became clear that the yacht was not just used for escape, it served a deeper function. During times of physical recovery and public disappearance, what happened on board remained undocumented, but the consistency of the pattern spoke louder than any report could. Every period of isolation matched with private activity offshore, hidden from the cameras, the crowds, and even his own inner circle. The more they tracked, the more they realized Privacy wasn't just part of his life. It was a central tool in it. The yacht had been moving through shadows all along, quietly, supporting something the world had never seen. Echoes from the vault. Buried within the structure of Privacy, hidden behind dual-locked compartments and shielded walls, was a section investigators later called the vault. It wasn't marked. It had no visible entrance. They found it only after running thermal scans that showed a small area generating a consistent internal heat, separate from the yacht's systems. Once breached, the space revealed its purpose: deep storage, layered in precision and silence. Inside were locked cases, temperature-stabilized shelves, and black boxes with no markings. The air was heavier here, the atmosphere still and engineered. Nothing rattled, nothing shifted. Every inch had been designed to keep the contents secure, protected. From time, climate, and discovery. It was clear this space was created not to hold luxury, but to preserve something delicate, maybe experimental, maybe sensitive. One section held sealed aluminum crates, wrapped in soft lining, possibly to shield them from vibration or electromagnetic pulses. Another corner contained old hard drives, some stacked in racks, others individually packed inside static-proof sleeves. No labels, no timestamps, and no interface to access them. There were no logs showing this part of the yacht had ever been used or acknowledged by staff. It existed outside the known structure, forgotten by design, hidden by expertise. Whatever had been stored here wasn't meant for transport or display. It was meant to be kept out of reach, in a place only one person could access, and no one else would ever know existed. Connections that weren't coincidence. As the investigation deepened, names began to surface, individuals who had no direct link to Tiger Woods, but were quietly tied to the development of advanced technology, defense projects, and covert research. These weren't sports managers or yacht designers. They were engineers, cryptographers, and former intelligence consultants. Some had worked on classified contracts. Others had vanished from the public eye years ago. Yet their paths all pointed toward the same vessel privacy. A few of these figures had traveled internationally during the same weeks the yacht made. Untracked movements across oceans. There were records of hotel stays, private jet logs, and encrypted messages bouncing between secure servers. Nothing pointed directly to Tiger, but everything pointed to the ship. It became clear that privacy had hosted more than parties or solo retreats. Meetings had taken place, quiet collaborations, unrecorded, gatherings far from wired cities or public scrutiny. One name stood out, a systems architect who once designed offshore data vaults. Another was linked to a now-defunct tech startup that tested prototype communication. Scramblers. Neither had any connection to golf or sports, but both had reportedly visited ports that privacy had docked in just days apart. This wasn't a coincidence. The patterns were too tight, the timelines too precise. The yacht had become a meeting ground for minds trained to stay invisible, and whatever brought them together had no interest in fame, only in what could be done without anyone watching. The name that changed everything. During the investigation, one name kept quietly appearing as a term that didn't belong to any company, agency, or public project. It was Project Meridian. At first, it seemed random, but soon it began showing up in different forms, etched into metal drives, handwritten on packaging slips, and buried deep within encrypted files. It wasn't a label, it was a sign, a silent signature left behind by the creators of something far more secret. Even inside the yacht's shut-down internal systems, there was an admin profile linked to this name. Some of the devices had file directories using the same term. The ship's core server, which hadn't been touched in years, still listed Project Meridian in its hidden registry. Piece by piece, the evidence began to form a line. Project Meridian wasn't an accident or a forgotten name. It was the backbone of everything the yacht had become. This wasn't about design. It was about intention. Every room, every hidden compartment, every layer of protection had been part of something much bigger than comfort or privacy. In the end, the name didn't just connect files or devices. It connected the entire mystery. And once revealed, it rewrote everything they thought they knew about the ship and about Tiger Woods himself. The legacy below deck. When the investigation ended, there was no official statement, no arrests, no media coverage, just silence. Those who had been involved in the inspections were quietly moved to other assignments. Reports were sealed. files archived, and Privacy, the yacht that had drawn so much attention, was moved to a secure dock, its systems shut. Down, its secrets left untouched. From the outside, it looked like any other vessel again. But those who had seen what lay beneath knew better. What remained wasn't just hardware or hidden rooms, it was a legacy built below deck. Every cable, every sealed crate, every coded signature told the story of something far more calculated than luxury. This wasn't the indulgence of a sports icon. It was a controlled environment, quiet, precise, and engineered for a purpose few could ever understand. Tiger Woods never spoke about what was found. He didn't defend it, deny it, or explain it. His silence became part of the story. Not a gap, but a wall. One that separated the world of championships and endorsements from something that lived far deeper, beneath the waves and behind steel doors. As the waters once again surrounded Privacy, the mystery settled back into silence. And while the public returned to watching the golfer, the legend that followed him had quietly split in two. One life played out under stadium lights. The other was written in shadows, stored away inside a yacht built never to be understood. The waves have calmed, and the story fades quietly beneath the surface once again. But what was found inside Privacy left behind a trail that no tide can wash away. It wasn't just about steel walls and silent hallways. It was the trace of a second life, one that had been carefully hidden in plain sight. This vessel was never just a retreat. It was a structure, built with purpose, beyond comfort and beyond fame. Some truths were never meant to be told. They were stored, protected, and sealed behind reinforced doors. And while Tiger Woods remains a legend on the golf course, his yacht will always carry a shadow, a legend beneath the surface, known only by those who dared to look closer, dared to look closer, dared to look closer.